Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's dialogue on beauty. Change how you see how you change. It's a dialogue organized as part of the True Colors Film Festival, which is presented by the Nippon Foundation. So they bring together diverse artists and audiences to generate exchanges, innovation, and creativity. And this deep engagement, this sharing of knowledge, transforms the way we relate to each other. My name is Unshuan. I'm an actor and a host, and I am honored to be here with all of you today and also with our wonderful panelists. Okay, so we have here with us Rick Guidotti. He's an award winning photographer. Hello, Rick. He's
Hi.
worked in the major fashion capitals in the world with Yves Saint Laurent, with Revlon, L'Oreal, Cindy Crawford. But 25 years ago, he met a young lady with albinism and something changed, and it led him to founding Positive Exposure. And he has since spent more than 20 years passionately advocating and collaborating with different organizations around the world to change the way society treats people with genetic, physical, behavioral, or intellectual difference. So great to have you here with us, Rick.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we also have with us Lily Shu. So, Lily Shu, with a background in art history and philosophy, is a multidisciplinary artist who works with a range of media, including drawing, collage, photography, video, text, and installation. And she was part of the award winning True Colors fashion documentary last year called Clothes in Conversation, where six diverse pairs of designers and models collaborated to create and showcase a piece of adaptive fashion. And she was the one who photographed the final creations. Hi, Lily. So good to have you here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. It's really my pleasure to be here. Hi, Rick.
It's a pleasure to have you
Really,
both.
so amazing. Amazing. It was a great introduction. Thanks so much. The only thing is to talk a little bit about Positive Exposure. We are a nonprofit organization that creates a more inclusive world, through photography, through film, and through educational programming.
Yes, a more inclusive world. Yes, because we're so socialized, right, to embrace certain definitions of beauty. And I think that we are all somewhat painfully familiar with what those definitions of beauty are. And they are very largely centered around certain body types, skin tones, and the idea of perfection, right? And these quite unrealistic beauty standards are slowly being challenged. But on top of that, there are people who face an added layer of stigma, right? It's not just about accepting, there's a layer of stigma where society and the people around them are actually conditioned to be afraid of them, or not want to deal with them or treat them as people. And there's now a movement that is going towards recognizing and celebrating everybody's humanity. So I guess today, the question that we are going to explore is, how can we contribute? And also, both of you are photographers. How can photography make a difference? Right. So I'm going to start with the first one. Images are powerful. And as photographers, you are people who create images. It's just simple one first. What draws you to want to take that photo?
Just for me, it's always been about seeing beauty. It's always the aesthetic of beauty, and how beauty is visual, but it also has sound and smell and movement and vibration. I've always been so just drawn to the aesthetic of beauty. And as a fashion photographer, I was thrilled to be working with some incredible models and clients around the globe, but always forced to work within certain parameters of the beauty standard. As an artist, I continue never to see beauty just on covers of magazines, but I see and celebrate beauty all around me constantly.
Okay, so just including my self-introduction a little bit to introduce myself to Rick and to everybody also. So I was born in China, and I grew up in China until 18 years old. After that, I moved to Japan. So the reason, first of all, the reason that drew me attention to photography itself was that during the 90s in China, there was the open door policy. So basically, it is a huge economic policy that opens the whole changing the whole socialist environment into open to it to the capitalist environment. So one of the paradigm shift was the change of the canon of beauty, and it is still going on. So as an Asian girl grew up under this kind of circumstances, like I was very shocked by how people change their view upon me just by my makeup and my style and my fashion and so on. So I started photography because I found the whole contemporary society is based on the idea of duplication in a way, and also basically I use collages to delete that so-called decisive moment. So I cut off the photos and embed the multiple layers of aesthetic senses into one image, which is also what I have done in the True Colors fashion film. So to delete that decisivism and the frame, which is maybe a little bit different approach from me and Rick, but my approach towards photography is actually pretty much to deny photography.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying about that. It's an antithesis almost to photography. It's you break everything apart, you abstract it, and you layer it, and it's almost as though it's like an art piece and not so much a photo. I mean, photography is also art, but there's something else that you do with it. You morph it into something else.
Yeah, I think I'm more into this kind of moving images rather than taking image as a still moment. And also, I don't really approach people just as portrait. I think I'm approaching both the landscape and the portrait under the same idea of elements or part of the nature, part of the ecology that all of us are involved in. So when I take the photography, the snapshots in the True Colors fashion, I wasn't really taking the models. Either they are supermodels or they're just normal models or whatsoever. There's no model kind of thing. So it's kind of the subject and the clothes, they are being embedded all together. So they are kind of really like a liquid, the body, and it's a little bit like a dance, you know. So the body and the clothes, they intervene to get into each other. That kind of sense is what I'm trying to pick up during my shooting, and which is also after the post-production is also what I did.
Lily, one of the things that I just while you're speaking, after looking at your work, that I see such similarities and such synergy, yet I'm so excited to me because there's something so modern about the work that you're doing, is that you're breaking through assumptions. You're challenging assumptions, all of our assumptions, by creating this body of work. In many ways, I'm doing the same thing. We're creating the assumption, but I'm having the individual present their new shiny self to the world and presenting it back to the world. But you're taking all the different assumptions and you're cutting right through it directly by slicing through it and denying those assumptions, and then creating it's almost like a breath of fresh air, the work that you're doing, because it feels like we're stepping into this new way and we're allowed to be thrilled about our own discovery. And oftentimes it's self-discovery, which is really important.
I'm so happy to have that comment. This is really into my POV, really into my perspective, exactly. Because during my shooting, I wasn't just a person looking through back the camera, because I'm not just a robot pressing the button. So I also have this communication with the model. I feel them, you know. So especially because I'm not very familiar with the environment, dealing with working together with people with disabilities or handicapped. So it was a very fresh experience because I try to be sensitive. I try to be careful. And the distance between us can be very interesting in a way, because, you know, I try to get to know them, but I don't want to be rude. So that shooting is also, you know, trying to find my distance, trying to find the temperature between me and the model themselves. So, and through that, I can feel them, I can feel their emotions and their stories. And also the clothes designed for them have their own stories as well. So it's kind of 3 stories coming all together, like the model's story, my feelings, and also the story that has been brought by the clothes. So I'm sorry, we should focus more on
No, that is actually, those are questions that I do want to ask you about. Yeah, but I was also thinking, okay, so in terms of like conversation with the people in front of the camera, from your vantage point. So one of the things that I noticed, like Rick, you shared a story of how when you were younger, you saw someone different walking down the street. and then you were staring, and your mom stopped you. Actually, I think what you said was your mom slapped you.
No. It wasn't. It's not so much that. It's just when we're walking down the street and we
Yeah.
see somebody approaching us with the difference.
Yes.
It's all of us. This is true for all of us. Is that we stare and then we hear our mom's voice in the background saying that it's not polite to stare, so then we'll look away.
Correct.
And it's that looking away that my friends over the last so many years have taught me that looking away sometimes is even more painful than the staring. So what we've created with positive exposure is an opportunity to steady the glance, steady the gaze of the person who's walking away. Come back, no, come back, it's okay. Come back, look gently, change how you see how you change. Connect and really, and then and all of a sudden when you finally see that beauty, everything changes and there's this huge shift, and it doesn't shift back. You stay enlightened, and then beauty just happens all around you. It's extraordinary. But all of our images, all the images that we create are all, and when we have very public exhibitions from Times Square to the Smithsonian to our own gallery. All the images are face mounted on highly polished glass or plexi, depending where it is. But so as you approach this beautiful face, this gorgeous energy coming off, and you're changing the way that you see difference, you're also aware of your own reflection, because that really does enhance the fact that this is not about them. This is about us. This is about all of us. And once we bring in that solidarity and we're all hand in hand, arm in arm, we can change the way the world sees together, providing we can have opportunities to know that it's not about them, but about us.
Yes, so much of it is really about how society does not make space for them and how we have to make space. Because there's something that they have been deprived of, not something that we are giving them or like blessing them with. It isn't that. It's about giving the space that they deserve and that they have a right to. Yeah.
Well said. Beautiful.
And like there was something that you were saying about the gaze, holding the gaze. It's the role of the artist to hold the gaze and to look and to find that beauty. But there was also one of the people in your film, I believe it was Sarah, and she said that what she did was she was always looking down because she did not want to deal with people staring at her. So I think for people watching, how would you guide them in understanding the difference between a gaze that sees beauty and a stare that causes discomfort?
It's change how you see how you change. It's being able to see with not the way that you would like look at someone, oh, that person's different, I'm going to stare. There's an interest there. And it's not like saying, oh, hi, just in a kind of ableist way. It's really about seeing with your heart and seeing when I'm photographing somebody and that person is standing in front of the camera and the lights on them and they are just fabulous and they're bouncing all over the place. My favorite moment is to look beyond their shoulder to their mom, to their dad, to their spouse, to their partner, to their friend that's there with them, and look at that person. That person's glowing even brighter than they are, because finally somebody sees the person that they love through their eyes. Through the eyes of someone of a kinder, gentler way, but also being allowing ourselves. But we have to be given the tools that we know to understand how that we can accept and understand and identify beauty that's outside of the very strict parameters of the beauty standard. Now, the beauty standard, it's just like, and we got to pull it open like that and just allow for that space. And once you allow yourself to see that beauty, then that changes. Then you will find beauty in diversity. You'll find beauty in individuals that normally would experience stigma or discrimination based on a difference, but that beauty exists there. We just have to train, and through positive exposure, what we're doing is creating the tools to teach the public to accept and to understand and embrace their own ideas of beauty, and to respect those, and to understand that you as an individual who's observing beauty have a voice. You're allowed to express what you think is beautiful. The whole concept of wherever I'm photographing, whether which continent, which culture, which language, which village, we all have the same need, and it's a need to be seen, a need to be heard, and a need to belong.
I have a question about because when you have them in front of the camera, you mentioned a few instances where they really were not comfortable in front of the camera. right? What are some of the things that you say to them? How do you show them that they are seen? How do you show them that they are beautiful? And how do you comfort them that this is safe, you know?
Well, always creating a safe environment. I'm sure Lily feels the same way, but it also is not taking photographs. I've stopped taking photographs a million years ago. It's always about collaborating on an image. It's having that person, their friends, their support group to be part of this image making. And the story that you're referring to was a young woman with albinism in the UK. I was there at an albinism conference who did not want to be photographed, but everybody around her was being photographed. And every time I was photographed for someone, the kid should be walking by or looking into the lens or just happen to be watching. So I just begged her, please, let's create some images together then. And not take images, let's create images together. And she agreed. And she was 14. And at the end of that photo shoot, she said to me, she said, finally, I can be proud of who I am, my albinism. But she did say this, and this was so powerful. She said, I realized the hatred and the abuse will never disappear from my life. But what has disappeared is the hatred that I felt for myself. And that's changed everything for me, to create the tools through the lens to create the opportunity for someone to look in that reflection or their image and celebrate that, find their unique beauty and embrace it and understand it's like a thumbprint. That's your unique beauty. And that's worth presenting. And that's worth creating an entire platform to show that in the best way possible.
That's incredible.
Well, I can sympathize with what Rick has said. I relate to what he has mentioned so much, because during the shooting in the True Colors fashion here as well, because this is so many people actually in the ground when we are taking the photograph. So it's not like you are taking a picture of one person, one-to-one relationship. It's more like the whole environment are engaged together. And it's also like, because I take so many pictures, I think maybe Rick as well, you choose one of the most amazing moment, the most amazing one, but actually beside that one, there's like hundreds or maybe thousands of images. And so it's a really sequence. It's really a constant flowing moment. It's not just a one single out moment. So it's really a flowing of, the sequence of movements. So, and during that movement, you can dialogue with the person like on the other side of the lens, and also it's just like we are talking through this this screen as well. So it exists and it doesn't exist at the same time. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, for Clothes in Conversation, the collaborative process that Rick was talking about, that was very present in Clothes in Conversation. Also, I think because of the subjects that you chose, there was a burlesque dancer, and there was a dancer, and there was, I think there were a couple of dancers and artists, a costume designer, who were getting clothes made for them. So they were very much a part of the artistic process as well. So how did you conduct those conversations with them when you came into the picture? Because I watched the whole documentary, you didn't speak at all. I didn't see your face. So I would like to know what your process was and how you collaborated with them.
Yeah, well, actually, there's another film director like relating to the whole documentary shooting, and there's also a fashion designer being there. So I'm not just me's whole being in control of everything. So it's kind of really conversation between me and another film director and the fashion designer and another stylist. So like 4 people and 1 model, like, and also there's assistants. So I wasn't really just the central person, actually. I had to say that, first of all, not really as important as Rick is in his studio. So, and I'm actually not a very verbal person, maybe as you can see from today's conversation. So I'm really just more into perceiving the moment, capture the moment, maybe when the model isn't even posing, or I don't really talk to them very much, actually. I'd rather just, when they take on the clothes, where they're just moving around, and then we started the shooting. And I will talk to them something totally different at all, like maybe relate to what's your favorite thing, this kind of thing. So maybe because I'm a girl and Rick is a man, maybe, I don't know what's the difference, but I generally would say you look amazing. I don't really say that, but I hope my attention and my love can be communicated to the person, like no matter I say it or not. So, and because my gaze basically constantly are focusing on them, and maybe, and also perhaps because I'm a girl and I'm kind of smaller. Like, I want to ask you, Rick, like when you're taking pictures of like your models, do you feel like they are gazing at you back? They are gazing back at you too, or you're feeling this is actually one way you capture the moments about them only?
It's
Do
a
you feel
great
they
question.
Mm.
Really great question. I think it's since I always approach every image as a collaboration. I
Mhm.
believe that we're really kind of we're in this together, and we're bringing the community together in this too. So we're very much part of this, and I'm reacting and they're reacting, and I'm showing images as we're shooting and watching that develop, whether I'm tethered to a computer or just the back of my camera. But it's really about kind of creating this image together, and it's all kind of based on the formula that self-acceptance equals self-esteem equals
Mhm.
self-advocacy. So the ultimate goal is to empower that individual how with all the tools that they're going to need to become advocates, to start building this entire chorus of individuals that are going to begin that are together, we're changing how the world sees difference. So it's all so I'm very much present in all the photo shoots. I no one ever gets photographed that doesn't want to be photographed. It's always I'm very much there, and but it is always a collaboration, always, and it's back and forth, and that person is part of that process, and since I'm so present in there, and so I'm also in that photograph in many ways. So hopefully that usually creates the most successful images for positive exposure anyway.
I
Yeah.
really adore what you have done, like both the organization and what your performance in the studio as well, because I really think like what you have done is also contributing to empowering everybody to fight against the industrial fashion in general in a way, because I think in our daily life, like we are very being taken away by the fashion in general, like as a big boom. Like, so we are basically dressing up to trying to become somebody else in some ways. Like we always have this collection by the high brands and then people following the trends, blah, blah, blah. So I think what you have done, like in the positive exposure, like from my point of view as an Asian girl, like a Chinese person living in a foreign country, also to see I'm very different. When I first come to Japan, I was very different from my surroundings, especially when I came to Japan, I was a teenager. So I have to dress up as a Japanese girls, otherwise I couldn't even make a friend. So I can sympathize. Yeah, I felt so much empathy when I saw your movie. I remembered like 10 years ago how I felt when I was trying to get into a community, trying to be part of it. But does that mean that I have to lose myself to be part of it? And which means they don't recognize me, they just recognize the symbols, all the cultural phenomena. So yeah, and I still don't really have a conclusion because I think I'm very much, like really getting into the Japanese society now.
Yeah.
And this has been a really good chance for me to remember that and think about it.
I think what's
Wonderful.
really amazing also, Rick, is like the way that when you capture them, you're not trying to fit them into the beauty standards. You embrace everything, the features about them, and sometimes you even mirror it in the environment.
Mhm.
And
Well,
that's
it's so important, I think, for us to create to have the tools we need to accept and embrace our authentic selves and our
Yeah.
authentic and not to feel that we need to kind of change who we are to fit in, but to celebrate that difference and have the community around us change how they see our beauty because they need to because and getting rid of the stigma, getting rid of discrimination and stereotypes, superstitions, but question those, challenges those. And every single image is created in collaboration to challenge assumptions, like Lily's work does as well. It's to challenge assumptions. It's to address personal bias, to kind of create that, and or to remind us of the biases that we're not even aware that we have. It's that sudden seeing that person, oh, I'm not supposed to stare, and then looking away, not even thinking for 1 second that looking away means that person's going to feel that they're not worthy to be seen. And so, and to come back and so it's like that's all I need to do in that situation. Well, no, that's not. Give me that face. Come back. Come back. Come back. Now look. Take a deep breath and look. And now look at that gorgeousness. Look at, and then boom! Everything changes. It's extraordinary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the work that you do also involves changing the way the medical profession teaches these conditions and the way that they frame it in their textbooks, the pictures that they show. And you were just saying that it's your 22nd year in a row talking to the doctors at Cornell University.
have med students, first year med students. I've spoken to over half of the medical schools in the country.
Wow.
So important to help healthcare providers in training understand early in their training that it's never what you're treating, but who you're treating. Always who you're treating. So creating opportunities, alternatives to those scary medical textbook photographs of the kids up against the wall, usually naked with a black bar across their eyes, presenting a disease or diagnosis. This is about seeing beyond diagnosis that can facilitate those connections. We started a whole series of films called Frame, which is Faces Redefining the Art of Medical Education. They're very brief films, 10, 12 minutes long, all the basic hallmark characteristics of a certain genetic condition or diagnosis, but as presented by somebody living with that condition themselves or their families, placing front row and center in medical education, humanity.
But yeah, I really feel that love and that humanity that Rick is trying to bring up. And what I felt in my home country as well is that like this huge change of the economy and the model of the industry is really force people really become quite cold to each other, just taking this so-called objective point of view, trying to get things right. And we stopped thinking about what is really right and who can define this rightness and who is the government or the authorities. And I think it's a whole rebellious spirit is behind Rick is doing, so which I find so encouraged from my position as well.
Gorgeous.
Do you sometimes look at the system and get overwhelmed? Because okay, so right now, Rick, you're working with just now, Lily, you mentioned it's the government, it's the corporations, it's all of that. Those are massive things, right? And Rick, you're engaging with those corporations, you're engaging with the NGOs, you're engaging with the schools. Do you ever look at that and feel like just overwhelmed?
Gorgeous, but never, because it's such a beautiful message. It's the notes from a beautiful song. It's bringing in, giving them the moment to show. So it's never, because it's such a simple message of being seen, being heard, and belonging. And that's so it fights all the overwhelm. It's a beautiful message, and it's so beautiful to be part of the chorus that sings that song.
That's very hopeful and very inspiring, because I think also for a lot of people, it feels like a lot to be done. And there's always that feeling of, also because we're taught, you're just one person, like, what does your voice matter? And it's so fantastic that you keep going, like, just one person matters. And if every person matters, that all adds up into a big movement, into a chorus, into change.
Actually, can I have a question for Rick? Like, so not really directly related to a film, but basically relate to the idea of beauty in general. So we all know we have Instagram nowadays, and we have these beauty filters. And so everybody want to be seen, and everybody uses selfies. So what do you think of this kind of phenomenon? And I, as a young person by myself, I sometimes get confused about how to deal with this kind of phenomenon.
But I think, just like now in the beauty industry, how things are changing as consumers, we're realizing when you pick up Instagram, you see the beauty. We're all aware of the beauty filters that are being used. We're also we all see that, so we know what that looks. So we know that that's there. So it's so much. I love that. So it's all about, we're all part of that. But we're allowed to question that if we want to. We know that the model that's on the feature on the cover of Vogue spent 4 hours in hair and makeup with the best hair and makeup team, spent with the best photographer on the planet to photograph, to capture that story, and then was retouched for hours on the cover of that magazine to make sure that there's flawless there going. But we get that. Okay, we know it's beautiful. Look, okay, I get it. It's almost like a painting, and that's the same thing with the Instagram beauty filters. But we're also not stupid. We're not that gullible anymore. We're questioning that now, and we're questioning now, do I have to look like that in order to be my authentic self and embrace my beauty? And I think the answer is slowly coming around to no. I can look in the mirror as I am and see beauty there and embrace that and present it and not be afraid of negative reaction to it. But be more, finding out more importantly, what's my response?
If I could add on to that, actually, I feel that with the selfies and the Instagram, on some level, it's kind of great for the people who want to take control over how they look. Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that in terms of like but I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of like the filters, and also then people who may not be as educated about about media literacy, like they may not be able to go like, oh, actually not everybody is this perfect all the time. And then on top of that, we also have algorithms that push a certain type of content and that encourages a certain kind of engagement with the app. So all of that comes together and is actually quite confusing. It can be quite confusing, but the original thing, like my friend once said before, that the internet is kind of like a big dining table and everyone comes over to have a meal. So and this dining table also kind of like balances itself out. But I'm really not sure now, because sometimes I feel this dining table is got a mind of its own. I guess also with Rick's work is the fact that no matter how some people present themselves, like society is still not accepting of it, and that's where the system needs to shift, right? And I it's hard, because actually even with all the messages of self-love and all of that, so as an actor, I find myself, I'm in front of the camera a fair bit, and when I show up, for example, for a shoot, right, for a magazine, for a fashion shoot, um if let's say I go like, okay, self-love, and I'm okay with putting on weight, if I'm okay with looking a certain way, but I show up at the fashion shoot and all the clothes are sample size,
Of course.
and that's not changing, then is it the clothes problem that they don't fit me, or is it my problem, or my professionalism, my so-called professionalism, for not doing my job and keeping off the weight and then fitting into the clothes? And that interaction between the self and the system is very difficult to navigate. And so I think that for both of you, the way that you just do the work and create images for people to reflect on themselves, and again, for starting from the individual and having more individuals change the way that they see things, and then also engaging on a systemic level, like, I mean, hopefully more things will change and faster. I mean, do you ever wish that things would happen faster?
Always, always. But the beautiful thing though is that this is not about having an industry or a society change. It's about empowering our ambassadors, empowering our individuals that are at risk of stigma and discrimination and exclusion, to make that change, to kind of reflect that change, to be that mirror that's going to reflect back. And so the change comes from inside here, and then reaches out, and it just collectively will alter the perceptions of the public. We're not trying to get them to change, because we're never going to. We don't have any control of how they're seeing. We do have control of what they're seeing, not how they're seeing, but what they're, and we also have control of what we celebrate and what we're embracing and what we present and project. And it's those important components and elements that will eventually change the way the public sees difference.
Yeah.
Presented in a way that's free of discrimination, free of fear, free of insecurity, free of, again, it's and it needs to be completely accented and empowered by self-acceptance. And once that self-acceptance happens, like the first kid that I photographed, she walked into the studio with her shoulders hunched, head down, no eye contact, and it literally just holding up the mirror and say, look at yourself, you're magnificent. Watching this kid exploding with a smile that literally lit up New York City. This kid desperately needed to change the way she saw herself. Her community desperately needed to change the way that they saw her difference. So that's where the whole philosophy came: change how you see how you change. And it's reflective.
What's the biggest way that you feel you've changed since you started the work 25 years ago?
Wow. I think I'm much more trusting of my own vision. I think that was the biggest change for me. It was not trying to be part of an industry that was inaccessible and not inclusive, and a beauty industry that only that parameters were this strict and would not allow that. And I felt working in the community, working at Yves Saint Laurent in Paris, or working in Milan, or here in New York, and working for like such great magazines and clients, that I always felt that I was forced to work within those parameters of the beauty cinema. And when I began to trust my own instincts and my own aesthetic, that's what changed me. And that turned me from being a good photographer to who I am now. And it's that was the change, accepting my own authentic, being my own authentic ideas and beauty and the aesthetics of beauty, trusting myself.
I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
How about you? What do you feel is the biggest change that you've seen in the process of doing your work?
Well, it actually just happened like half a year ago, so it's nothing can be comparable to what Rick has. My perspective on photography is not just about capturing the light, but also about capturing the shadow. And I also believe that the shadow really adds a depth to the personality to us. So what really defines who I am, not really just the beautiful side, but also my sadness, my sorrow, and so on. So I wonder, in that terms, like how do you relate to your models or your participants in your project? Like I'm sure when the glorious moments passes, the sorrow may come back again, because it's not just the public will not change through one day. So I think there's a process of just repeating itself. So is there any difficulty that you encounter in that sense? And any thoughts on that aspect, if any?
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. We just began a new collaboration working with individuals living with mental health challenges or psychosocial disabilities, working in collaboration with medical students and the Kings County Mental Health and Wellness Center here in Brooklyn. And many of the individuals that were stepping up and participating wanted to know, well, how are you? We see how you can photograph a birthmark, or how are you going to photograph mental health or mental health challenges? How are you going to present that? And the answer to that was, of course, in collaboration. But I've never photographed a genetic condition ever in my life. I've never photographed a disease or a diagnosis or a difference. I've always photographed humanity. And that's what this is about. This is not about, so let's see how beautiful she is. It's not about that. It's about starting the journey to self-acceptance, the journey to self-revelation, and honoring that process. We opened up our gallery in East Harlem on Museum Mile to have a party, and to know that party is only going to be a success if everybody's invited to dance. And that's what this gallery is about. It's a multimedia gallery space, performance space, right across from the Africa Center, but it's there to bring artists and to bring our disability community and be the nexus for communities to come and embrace each other's difference, celebrating human diversity. We all say, oh yeah, it's better we just celebrate our difference, yay, and everyone says that, but it's so easy. It's not. We need action on that. This is a call to action. We all need to use our talents, our passions, whatever they happen to be, to change how the world sees difference. And our passions go across the board to and there could be as a photographer, as an artist yourself, Lily, or as an actress, or as an actor, or however we use our talents. We have to step up and bring all of our passions to the table and use them to kind of drive this message, this human movement forward to embrace diversity.
Embodying all of those values, embodying all of that. And like you, in some ways, your own revelation of embracing our authentic voice and not being afraid of it and learning to trust that.
But I don't think that we're all going to come out of that party all feeling that we're all the same. Wow, no. We all deserve the space that we're in. We have a rightful place at that table, a rightful seat at the table, and our uniqueness is what unites us. It's our uniqueness that unites us. We're not blending. We're not trying to be homogenous. It's our uniqueness that we need to embrace and understand that that's our own special gift, and that's what we need to bring to the table.
Thank you, Rick. I think that is actually, sorry.
And we all deserve that space at the table for sure.
Absolutely. I think that is actually the perfect note to end this conversation on. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Rick. And for everyone watching at home, the festival goes on from December 3rd to the 12th. So do head over to the website. We have incredible stories like this on beauty, and we also have more stories of inclusion, diversity, hope, empowerment, and human connections. And we all deserve a seat at this table. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.